Hey there, Miso friends. It's Angelica. Welcome back to my kitchen. It's so lovely to have you guys here. So today we're going to talk about a really healing miso soup, especially when you're feeling run down or you got the flu or a cold or you're sick. This one has a little bit more in it and to give you that boost of healing that you need. So let's talk first about the miso that we're gonna use. We're gonna use either the barley miso or the brown rice miso. They're darker, as you can see, than the chickpea miso or the shiro miso that we're gonna use next week. This one is aged for 3 years, both of them are, and the longer the miso is fermented, the better it is for you. One side note about miso, I was taking a look at some of the misos at Whole Foods and I noticed some of them had sugar in them. Stay away from the sugar. Okay, like I said, South River's great, Miso Master, there are other brands as well, but those ones are good. Just make sure there's no sugar in it. I don't know why would you put sugar in it? Okay, the other thing that we're gonna do with our miso soup is we're gonna infuse the stock with a little bit more sustenance with shiitake mushrooms and kombu, also known as kelp. So I already have these soaking, and I've had them soaking for a little while so that they get nice and soft because both of them are dry. The other thing that I'm gonna use instead of the umeboshi vinegar is either the umeboshi paste or the umeboshi plums. These are a little bit more medicinal as well. I'm gonna use the plums for this one to keep it extra medicinal, whole plums. We're gonna use for the vegetables, we're gonna also use the wakame like we did before. We're gonna use for vegetables an onion, carrot, just like we did before. This time we're gonna add a daikon, and I'll explain why in a moment. Cabbage, also explain why in a moment. And parsley instead of scallions to garnish. And we'll finish it off with some ginger. Ooh, get that ginger in there to boost your immunity. Okay, so let's talk about these different ingredients that we're adding and why we're adding them. The kombu, this is the kombu, this is it being soaked, is really rich in minerals and it improves your digestion as well as reduces gas. So another tip is that you can cook them with beans or rice or grains to help absorb them so you don't get, gas. So I'll talk about that in another video, another time on the YouTube channel about how to do that, but just to have that in your brain, why you would want to have that in your kitchen. The other reason is that it's said to help prevent cancer and improves thyroid function and protects you from potentially getting anemia and helps with arthritis. And it's been consumed since 12,000 BC by the Okinawans. So of course we're gonna wanna have this because it's been around for that long and it's good for you. The next ingredient we're gonna use is shiitake mushrooms. Here they are dried and here they are soaking. So shiitake mushrooms are said to boost the immunity, fight obesity, help destroy cancer cells, supports cardiovascular health, has antimicrobial functions, boosts your energy, boosts your brain function, has vitamin D, and helps your skin to be so nice. And now umeboshi. Okay, for the vinegar, the paste, or the plums, like I said, the plums are gonna be the most medicinal. Umeboshi is alkalizing. It is so good. It's like if you have a headache or anything, you could take it. It helps nausea. It's a liver cleanser, a cancer fighter, helps your gastrointestinal health. It has high antioxidants. It strengthens your bone health, stabilizes your blood sugar. If you have a hangover, it helps with that. It's all around really, really good. If you're feeling like, if you're nauseous on the plane or feel a little queasy, have some. It's like, I have it all with me always whenever I'm traveling. It's my go-to little medicinal thing. It's like the Advil in macrobiotics. Now moving on to our vegetables. First of all, daikon. This is a new vegetable for this week. Whoo, it is my favorite vegetable, and my grandfather Michio once told me, what's the most important vegetable? Daikon. So there's a Chinese proverb that says that when white radishes are in season, doctors should take a break because radish the daikon, is ultimately like this. You know when you're washing a pot or a pan and it's filled with oil and you're trying to wash it just with water? It gets worse. If you add soap, it starts to clean and get rid of the oil and the fats that were on your pots or pans. That is what daikon is in your system. If you eat fats and oils, then it gets like kind of stuck in your system. But the daikon, when you eat that, then it breaks it down so you can digest and it cleans your system. That is why at a traditional Japanese restaurant, they will have daikon radish grated next to deep fried tempura. Daikon is really good to support your respiratory health, your digestive health. It helps to detoxify you, has potential cancer prevention abilities. It boosts your immune system, reduces inflammation. It's good for your bones and your skin, and it helps with your weight management. This helps to cleanse you out. Now I'm going to talk about our cabbage. It's a cruciferous vegetable. And cruciferous vegetables are so good for you. They contain cancer-fighting compounds. They reduce inflammation in the body. They promote a healthy weight, and they support your heart health, and they balance your hormones. And lastly, parsley. This is a new addition for us. Parsley is one of those really packed with vitamin C vegetables. So keep this around. Let's add it as a garnish for our soup. A few words about the kombu and the shiitake, about soaking them. If you get kombu or kelp that is salty and you can actually see it salty, rinse it off before you soak it. Now this one is from Larch, the seaweed man from Maine Seaweed, and it's really nice and clean. And another thing is that most companies, I think now, clean it off so there aren't any like barnacles or anything like that, but that is something to be aware of. So clean it before you soak it, because then you can use the soaking water for the kombu and the shiitake in the miso soup. And then that goes the same with the actual mushrooms. Make sure that they're all cleaned before, although generally speaking the dried ones are. And then you're going to just use the soaking water in with the soup. With a little note about the barley versus the brown rice. Traditionally in macrobiotics, they say the barley miso is more medicinal. The barley is the healing grain of the ancient Greeks. Hippocrates recommended having barley to heal all sorts of diseases. And then the brown rice is the traditional healing grain in Asia. So it's kind of just your pick and choose, in my opinion. I like to do both. I think that variety is really good and great for you. But like I said, the longer the fermentation, the better. That goes the same with the umeboshi plums. The longer they are fermented, the better. Make sure when you purchase the umeboshi, there is no sugar in it. Sometimes in just an average Japanese store, you will find ones that have sugar in them. That defeats the purpose. Okay, here we are. I'm going to add the shiitake and the soaking water and the kombu and the soaking water. Okay, when you feel the kombu, it feels a little slimy. That's totally cool. Don't worry about it. And in order to be able to eat the kombu, it needs to cook for longer than 10 minutes. But it is a little peculiar, so you may not be used to eating the kombu, and sometimes it's a bit too strong, so don't worry about it. I kept the shiitake mushrooms whole. You can slice them up before you plop them in, whatever you would like. Okay, I just wanted to take a moment and talk about the cabbage, because I opened it up and I realized it was really nice. This is clearly an organic cabbage, because you can see the center is growing straight up. In a conventional cabbage that is grown with pesticides or herbicides or other crappy things, you will start to notice that the center is askew in some way, but this one is nicely balanced around. So that's what we're looking for with our vegetables, is balance. Balance in our veggies, therefore creates balance in our bodies and minds. Alrighty, the stock is boiling now that the vegetables are all chopped. Ooh, and I can smell it. It smells like mushrooms and seaweed. Maybe a little peculiar to you, but it's very earthy. Mmm, so medicinal. Okay, first I'm gonna add the onions. And I used purple, red onion for variety. And I'm gonna let that come to a boil. It's actually gonna come pretty fast because it's very hot. Now I'm going to add the carrots and the hardier parts of the cabbage. And just to note that if you like the kombu and shiitake dashi stronger or lighter, you can add more or less depending on what it is that you want. Okay, I'll put the exact proportions that I used for this go around, but as you move in the future, it's all back to a boil, and I'm actually going to put in the cabbage before I put in the daikon. The daikon is actually really quick to cook, and cabbage sometimes takes a little longer, depends on how thick you cut. And all the chopping techniques that we have done so far, you can learn, you do whatever it is that you want that works for you. I've just been kind of going with a box style or a rolling method that works. Okay, now I'm going to let this come to a boil again. And the daikon is so delicious. One of my students once said that it was kind of like potato, but better, the texture. Like I said, I like my miso soups hearty. You can have less vegetables or more as you can. Can tell there's a lot of veggies in here. Oh, here's the kombu. So you could actually take it out. It's kind of hot, so whoop. Because the kombu is already in there. You can use it to cook again if you would like. Okay, now that all of that is cooking and boiling, I'm gonna take some of the umeboshi plums out and break them up a bit by just chopping them up. And of course you can choose the flavoring according to your palate. And then you could also keep them on hand in the fridge, that if you wanted cut up a little bit of a fresh one and add it as you were reheating your miso. That's a nice way to reinvigorate the miso. The miso, by taking out a tablespoon of miso per cup of water that I have going on in there. Okay, so I'll just use the mesh strainer. Again, if you did not see the other videos, if you don't have a mesh strainer, you can put this into a cup, like a teacup, the miso into a teacup, and add some of the hot water into the teacup and break up the miso paste so it becomes liquid, and then pour that in. So you do not need this mesh strainer. I've reduced the flame because the vegetables were really boiling. I'm gonna let them cook for a little while to get soft, and then I'm gonna take this spoon to prep the ginger to get the skin off, because it's not a organic ginger, unfortunately. It's kind of rare to come by, but if you can get your hands on some, please do. I actually store some of my ginger in the freezer. That's a really good way to have it on hand if you aren't able to cook as often as you would like. So just to be able to have that with you and accessible to you. Okay, the veggies are pretty much ready. I'm gonna add the umeboshi that I chopped up in here into the mix. And I'm gonna grate the ginger to my liking. I'm using a microplane. You can use a grater, and I'm just gonna grate it directly in. And I personally like a lot of ginger, especially when it's for my healing. You can put in according to your taste and your flavors. Okay, I'll put a rough measurement about what it is that I just did. But the thing is that you are the creator, and you get to tap into your intuition to figure out how much ingredients works for you. I'm giving you a parameter to work with, a framework, and then you create from there. Okay, now I'm gonna add a few of the wakame sprinkles. I'm adding a little bit more than I did last week, just because this is the healing miso soup for when we are sick. Now I put the flame tamer, flame disperser underneath. You can either turn off the flame or put it on really, really low if you don't have the flame disperser, so that the miso doesn't boil when I actually stir it in. So now this week I have all of the miso in here versus dispersed in the cup. So it's gonna take a moment to break up. So you just have to be patient and enjoy this process. And since my pot doesn't have a lip to hold this, I'm just gonna have to hold it myself. The advantages of having different cooking ware, so you become aware of what works best. So I'm still at it. I'm just taking my time, just breaking it up, baking the miso up gently, just going slow and stirring. I have my wooden chopsticks. You could use a wooden spoon, something that sounds peaceful and calming. You're creating something that you are using to heal you. And all these different vegetables and ingredients, we went through several of them today. We didn't go through all the benefits of every one of them, but just thinking of the grounding, the root vegetables grounding down, the round vegetables, the onion and the cabbage going around, and they're nourishing different organs and different systems, and they have different flavors to help nourish our system differently. And we'll go into that more if we continue to study together, but just know that you're connecting to each and every single energy system within you by having a balanced miso, and by having nutrients, and by having ingredients that support you, so that you can connect to your whole system and nourish your whole system in the best possible way, so that you have optimal health, and that what the macrobiotic system and these miso soups are doing is to empower your own health, to bring you into balance, to bring you into your optimal health, to be able to function fully and vibrantly, and to have fun then, and to notice what works, what doesn't work, what's going to be fun for me. Because you want to be able to have fun and be free. The macrobiotic diet, these miso soups, are a good staple to have in your life. And the whole point is to then be free to be able to go do what you want and enjoy the pleasures of different foods from around the world, or different activities, so that we are able to just be free beings, being able to connect around with everyone around us in the best way. Oh, this looks so good. Of course, I have to try it. Okay, so we can see here that this is a darker miso, and will have a completely different flavor than last week's. Okay, I want to make sure it's not going to burn me. That's yummy. That feels nourishing. Okay, so a little note about the ingredients here. So anything that you want to add or subtract, go for it, okay? Like if you really liked the tofu from last week, I didn't add it this week just to keep it a little simpler. Oftentimes I do add tofu when I want, it's nice when you're feeling a little sick and down and contracted, that these tofu brings this lightness and this vibrancy to it. Broccoli is another nice one to have if you like broccoli. So you can vary the ingredients according to what you want. That's a good amount. And then you're gonna package up your soups into the ball jars. Remember, when they're hot, go ahead and put the lid on, and it's quite hot, so you wanna make sure that's on. And then seal it up, and then let it sit, and as it cools down, this little button will go down. Okay, so now everything is packaged and it's cooling off. Once it's fully cooled down, then I will transfer it to the fridge. I have 12 servings packaged for the week for me and my partner. And I have my parsley already chopped up and ready. You can refresh the parsley if it needs to. And the other thing that I wanted to suggest is if you're interested in making it a more full meal, you could add in grain like quinoa or brown rice. Once you take it out and heat it up, you could just add that in if it's already pre-cooked. If you want to, you can have the tofu in there. That's really nice, and then that's like almost a really complete whole meal. So reminder of how to heat it up. When you're ready, you can take it out of the fridge, pop off the lid, heat it up on a low heat. Don't let it boil because that kills the enzymes. If it does boil, it's fine. It's still really delicious. It just doesn't have as much of the healthy packed enzymes, the probiotics. Okay, so then enjoy, have one each day. Let us know how it is, and we look forward to hearing about your journey with this more healing version of a soup. And just notice the difference. Did you like last week's better? Do you like this week's better? Why? How does it make you feel? Alrighty, thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to hearing how it goes for you.